buddy? Well, hello there. You lost, buddy?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So something that I think is quite interesting is just how the CEO, executive essentially, had this weird rant about the Campbell's soup product. Now, what's interesting is the fall of this soup is pretty symbolic because it's true. It's a soup that a lot of poor people ate. And the top one that I would eat is the tomato soup and the chicken noodle soup. Okay? Now, in the Amish cookbooks that I have, there's a lot of cream of mushroom soup, cream of celery soup, cream of chicken soup that are used in the casseroles. And now I buy different brands of canned soup, and not very many people include Campbell's soup in food bank boxes. It's usually other brands, but that's California. So Campbell's has been around, I think, for over 100 years, and they started off with a decent product, and little by little it got cheaper, and the sodium content is pretty high. So that's something that a lot of people have taken into consideration. But the executive had made this rant that only poor people eat their soup and that it's bioengineered, essentially chicken meat. And Campbell's has done some damage control, but the cat is out of the bag. And if the CEO won't eat the food, then you know something's up. Now, it's interesting how the CEO says, I don't buy, bleep Campbell's products barely anymore. It's unhealthy now that I know what the bleep is in it. You can eat bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a blink piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. So, a lot of people have talked about clone meat, and remember the vegan brigade is in favor of lab-grown meat, so like Frankenstein meat, essentially. They can't handle even humane, certified processing of animals, right? They think you're an evil person if you eat meat at all. And it reminds me of how people were complaining about halal processing of animals, but are very silent on factory farming. So there's that. You could make an animal's life pretty good and then harvest them without trying to create all the fake meat. Now, Bill Gates had that fake meat company that he was pushing, and if you recall during lockdowns, you'd go in the grocery store, everything was picked pretty clean, down to pasta, you name it. But the fake meat was still there in abundance. People weren't buying it. And Campbell's coming out with this scandal it's like it's as if Coca-Cola or McDonald's had collapsed. Now, a lot of people are doing a boycott of the product. I'm not gonna buy it. It's not very healthy. I mean, if you're starving, you ain't got no choice. But there's other brands, and you need to start just reading labels more, and this is why label laws are important. This is a huge thing that a lot of lobbyists have tried to not happen. Like, they've been trying to prevent label laws. And I think it's so important for corporations to be forced to write what's actually in their food. Because with cancer rates skyrocketing, we have a lot of unhealthy people in America. More and more are realizing that the preservatives and the food additives in their food is what's making people sick. And it's intriguing how this person secretly recorded the CEO and how forthright he was when he didn't think he was being recorded. And I hope that they start doing investigations into these companies and checking them out. What's really in your food. And it's also an interesting note to think about how many corporations keep up an image of their vintage selves, but who they are in the modern era is very different than the philosophy that the company started with. See, a lot of branding is about legacy, and once you ruin that legacy of a brand, it's very hard to get back. And a CEO has to keep that vision alive. If he's a good person, I'd argue, stays true to the founder's mission. Okay. If you think about how Bud Light had a history, that disgusting beer, of being for white conservative males. Okay. And then they put Dylan Mulvaney, a cross-dressing male, who's a liberal, in a drink little thing they did. Total doesn't match. And it was a female CEO who said she wanted to branch out into a new market. And she tanked that stock. And then they tried to have Kid Rock drink the beer. And it still didn't work. And so Cracker Barrel also had a thing. They took out the old guy from their logo. They got a boycott. They put him back. Now, Land O'Lakes butter that had the Native American woman on it, leftists got that removed. Their nice face of Uncle Ben's rice was a black guy. They got that removed, I think, as well. You might still see some in the store. I haven't checked in a while. Because I don't buy instant rice. I just make my own rice. But Aunt Jemima was a very friendly black woman. They changed her logo. So Campbell soup is kind of like Heinz. And unfortunately, Heinz ketchup, the classic one, has high fructose corn syrup in it. It's super unhealthy. But the organic one doesn't. But there's so many better brands of ketchup now that are made with way better ingredients. It's non-GMO. It's just delicious, actually. So Heinz was only good because it has that corn syrup, because it tricks your palate. So think of just a classic American brands collapsing. Like McDonald's, for example, got beat up a lot in the early 2000s because there was people doing documentaries on how long it takes to grow mold, and if you eat it consistently every day, how that will be. So this is another nail in the coffin of American brands, because America used to pride itself on legacy of products made in America, and the Campbell soup is an example of another brand collapsing. So you got Budweiser that really fell off, and you got McDonald's, you got the whole genre of, like, Walmart even in the past was a lot better than it was today. The whole idea of Dollar Trees, dollar stores, that is, and like Dollar Tree knockoffs. And then Dollar Tree, because of the inflation, they had to raise their prices, and so it was going over just $1, or what we would call 99-cent stores. So piece by piece, even some of the classic bicycles and quality made trucks is gone. And it just is another sign that America is changing. It's a changing. And it's a end of an era, really. And you may be thinking, oh, what if we find out it's not bioengineered meat, and who cares if it is? Thing is, Americans have to become more health conscious ASAP. We don't have universal health care. 1 out of 5 Americans, I believe I read, have a chronic disease, and there's people who even have, what is it, 60% have multiple? I forgot the exact data, but you can look it up. Pretty much a lot of Americans have a chronic disease. High sodium leads to high blood pressure. High blood pressure can lead to stroke and heart attacks. Okay. Campbell's puts a crap load of sodium in their soups, so you're really just tasting kind of like salt in a way. It's strange. You become thirsty. Hey, drink more fluids, the doctor says. Well, Campbell's soups will have so much salt that'll make you want to drink more water, you know? And they have their vintage commercials of a snowman eating some soup, and it's really a kid underneath all the snow. So again, it's surprising. It's a surprising scandal, but I thought it was just fascinating how the owner of the company just has hatred for his customer base. Because the poor buy his brand instead of, the posh. He thinks like, these stupid poor people. Meanwhile, he's a CEO of the company and making good money because poor people buy their products. It's really quite sad. But you can also make your own cream of mushroom soup. And subhanAllah, it's not hard to make when your kids are the right age, make your own pasta noodles, make your own chicken noodle soup. I understand though when you're on the go, you gotta go, and I love me some good tomato soup. But buy from brands where the CEO doesn't talk about how much he hates you. And it's a good thing that, more people are discussing what's actually in the product. So let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. Join the blog.